Welcome to another episode, Dream Big with Zhanna, inspiring you to reignite, refire, and refuel your life. That's the show where we are really, the goal is to inspire and refuel and refire your life. And we're bringing different experts in different fields to do so. And today is a special day because you see on the screen our amazing returning guest on the show. It's Audrey Sussman. And I believe it's the fourth episode with you, Audrey, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Very
And
happy to be here.
we're happy to have you back because we're continuing this really hot topic on parenting. And well, I would say it's not only parenting, we kind of frame it around the parenting, but it's really about the art of connecting. And it's really special to me because in my Facebook group, Women with Big Dreams, each day is dedicated to something. We have a theme for each day. And so Thursdays are dedicated to specifically the art of connecting.
Wow.
So this is great to have you on the show. If you guys haven't seen the previous episodes with Audrey, you can go to Zhanna Shpits YouTube, right? Find it there. And we were covering ages newborns up to 7, then 7 to 11 is another episode where Audrey was sharing her wisdom and techniques and practical tips on what you can do with your children to establish that really deep connection. And then we talked about the preteens and teens from 12 to we've cut through the teenage years in the last episode. And today the topic is how do you really connect and how you create this deep connection with the adult children, which is from 20 years of age and or years old and up. Yeah, whether they are 30, 40, you name it. So let me, Audrey, with your permission, for those listeners and viewers who see you for the first time, I just want to briefly remind them or educate them on who you, like, what your background story is.
Sure.
So Audrey Sussman, Ph.D., director and hypnotherapist at the Anxiety Control Center, has been working with individuals and groups as both a clinician and trainer for 30 years, developing many dynamic, effective workshops from her experiences and research. Her approach has proved effective for parents and children, from the gifted to the multiply handicapped. Her passion is to offer tools that can change stress and strife to an ultimate calm and loving way of being. And so that's what just a little piece of what she's doing, because she's doing so much more. So thank you, Audrey, for being with us. Let's jump right in.
Yes.
Let's talk about the adult children. What's the fundamental difference in creating connection with the adult children, because they are not really children anymore? And I'll kind of load that question. I tend to do that. I'll do two in one, and then you can start with whatever feels right to start with. There's a lot of heaviness, and I hear from people who come into my world that especially for parents who lost that connection with their children way before the 20 years old, whether that's a daughter or a son. Is there any possibility, like, is there a hope in to restore? Is it possible to restore that connection so that you can at least understand each other and be in a loving relationship? So wherever you want to start with.
The good news is yes, there is a way of restoring relationships. And as usual, I'll tell a little story. I was working with a man. He came in not for his relationship with his dad. He came in because he had panic. And I treat panic. I specialize in panic. And when we were cleaning out stuff, we went back to his childhood, where there was a lot of anger stored between his child self and his dad. And we cleaned it out, meaning that if you think of a string of pearls and each pearl represents an event of hurt unfairness, whatever. It's almost like we re-scripted it and we're able to pull the string out, and all of that anger just disappeared. And he wrote to me and he said, Audrey, not only is the panic on, which is what he came for. It's funny, it was about fear of flying. Who would have thought that this would have repaired his relationship? He says, now I can fly, but this is the first time, he said, that he was able to be with his father without that intensity of anger. It was just like something opened up for him.
How old was he?
He was like 35. So, and his dad, I think, was in his early 60s.
Wow.
He said this is the first time he can remember since his teens that he actually could be in a room with his dad and not feel all that anger. So the answer is yes. And with him, we were doing some different kind of clearing. What we're talking about today, we're doing deep hypnotic work, where you clear things. But it still means that if he could repair his relationship, absolutely anyone can do it who wants to. I'm working with a woman right now. I guess she's in her 40s. And her mother and she have been bumping heads since she was 8. And she said to me, Audrey, is there any way we can have a session with my mom? Because she keeps doing these things that are so hurtful. And she said she calls it passive aggressive because her mom is a bit on, meaning that her mom will say the meanest things to her in front of others. And yet she loves her mom. She doesn't want to lose her relationship. And she says, I would love to have a mother that I could go to and say, hey, I'm having this problem. Can we talk about it? Instead of her mother telling her all the things she's doing wrong. And because I'm working with her right now, I can't kind of give the exact things that are going on. But the answer is we worked and we went back to age 13 with her. And we cleaned something out where she was so angry with her mom. And she said she just felt peace in her body. That's the first step. The second step is to have the skills that you need to be able to talk the language that the other person can hear.
Yes. So that was my question. My next question is, so in order to basically, who, in your opinion, to benefit the relationship, who needs to take the first step? Is it the child or the parent?
It could be either. I find that it's usually the child, the adult child, the 20, 30, 40, or 50 or 60-year-old adult child. And many times it happens when grandchildren are born, because now that adult child wants to have a relationship or would like the grandchildren to know the grandmother or grandfather. So ask me the question again, so I'll answer correctly.
Who in your opinion would need to make the first step?
If it is the adult, the older adult, then it doesn't matter. The skills are going to be the same, but somebody has to open the doorway.
Yeah.
And it's not a, I don't need to say like this word, like where you just yell at each other and tell the other person all the bad things they did. That's not going to fix the problem. I always say to my clients, let's set the baseline. Like with the woman I was talking about, I said, let's just set the baseline that your mother has done some things that are so hurtful. Let's say that's the truth. That's the baseline. You have every right to your anger. Now let's look at, has all these years of being angry with her helped? And and this is what comes up. So I just want people to know, because they're going to feel this. So she said, and this could be her, it could be 1,000 other people I've worked with. She said to me, Audrey, but if I don't stay angry with her, it's like she gets away with it. All the bad things she did. And I said, yeah, that may feel like that. But on the other hand, is it working? And she says, well, I keep thinking that if I get angry when she does these things, she'll finally get that she's hurting me. I said, is it working? She said, no, she keeps doing the same thing no matter what I say back to her. If I'm nasty back, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So let me just give you like a little example. I like to work with examples.
Absolutely.
And because this just happened to happen just last week, so it's easy. So basically I said to her, this is not going to fix the problem, but just imagine. And I'm going to change it to a man I worked with 5 years ago, because I just don't want to use the client I'm working with now. So he came in, he wanted to have a relationship with his dad. This dad was one of these dads who felt like a boy doesn't cry, a boy, this is how a boy should act. And this guy he's a manly man. He is very physically adept. He does martial arts. And yet the feeling like he could never please his dad. So when we look back, and I said, just imagine that the part of your dad that always wanted you to be the manly man, let's look back to his childhood, because something happened to him. And even if you can't forgive your dad, think of the child who lives in him, who's still screaming and yelling because his dad made him feel like if you don't stick up for yourself in this world, his dad was the depression dad, people are going to walk all over you. And I said that his intention was to protect you by making sure you were strong and never put up with anything. It didn't work because you're a kind person. You don't want to work like that. So just seeing that inside of dad lives another young self himself, that is a beginning. But then we need the language, like you said, connection. There's actual language we need to change. It's almost like a parent and adult child are speaking two different languages. One speaking French, one speaking English.
Exactly.
And they're very clear, but neither person can understand what the other person's saying. So I always say I'm the interpreter. I will actually say what the one person says and say, this is what I'm hearing, and I'm translating. And the one person goes, yeah, that's just what I meant. And yet it's not what they said. Well, then you have a conversation.
So what would be, do you have any tips on how to read the language that the other person is using? So that you basically you don't listen to the words that they are saying, but you listen for the meaning. There was a funny expression. I sometimes when it just happened to me many years ago, and my friend said, I said something, and no, he said something to me, and then he goes, don't listen to what I say, listen to what I think. So that's like that, and it just got stuck with me, because that's what happens. It's miscommunication, and that's where the issue starts. So any tips on how to understand?
I guess my biggest tip is, if somebody is saying something there's just so many different examples that can happen. So I'll just make one. So let's say the adult parent is talking to the adult child, and the child feels like, don't you trust me to do things right? I'm already 30 years old. Can't you ever, like the mother's giving advice or the father's giving advice. It's almost like you have to get yourself out of the way. Because how many times have you said to that parent, hey, don't you think I know what I'm doing? And the parent keeps giving you advice. So, like your friend said, hear what I mean, not what I say. What is the parent trying to do? The parent's trying to protect. They still think. My daughter sometimes will walk, and I'll put my hand out in the street, and she goes, Mom, I'm 38 years old. I know how to, I even have children. I know how to, and I say, my daughter's Karina, I swear it's just like a habit.
Yeah.
And no way meant I didn't think she's capable of crossing the street. Do you see how that misinterpretation, even though we have a great relationship?
Yeah.
And I laughed and I said, no, you're right. I know you could cross the street. And what I said to my daughter at that moment, I said, I know that you're capable. You're a great mom. You're a doctor. You do all these great things. But in my mind, you're still my little 7-year-old daughter. And even though I see she's grown up. And so now she'll go like, I know you still see me as a 7-year-old, but I'm really not. So we have a joke going. So the first step is kind of getting yourself out of the way and saying, if the other person just said that, whatever, let's say it's a nasty thing. If they just said that nasty thing, then I wonder what's going on inside. If you make an assumption, this is the hard assumption, that the person loves you, then if that's your assumption, then it's not a love issue, it's a miscommunication issue. So if your assumption is, okay, my mom or my dad loves me, but they just keep telling me what to do. If it's not a love issue, it's not a respect issue, then it must be that they think you need their advice. And it might sometimes come down to just saying, you know what, I really need to talk to you, but I actually don't need advice right now. I just need you to listen. And just now, there's ways of listening.
Yeah.
So
you told about it, but we talked about it in active listening and the components of the active listening in the previous episodes. Yeah. So you guys can watch the previous episodes with Audrey.
So like my own children, we do have a really good relationship. Luckily, I've been teaching these things before they were even born. So luckily, by the time my children came on the scene, I didn't have the terrible twos. I didn't have the terrible teens. That doesn't mean there weren't times when I went back to my drawing board. I'm like, my kids just turned into monsters. What am I doing? And instead of saying what's wrong with them, I said, what am I doing wrong? And there's like something called the dirty dozen. It's like when you tell people what to do, when you give them, oh, when I was a kid, I walked 15 miles in the snow, those kind of things. Those don't work. So I go back to my drawing board and I go, okay, which of the dirty dozen am I doing? And sure enough, I was moralizing, or I was preaching, or I was pulling power. Because look, my own childhood wasn't like, I didn't just come out of the womb knowing this stuff. I had to learn it.
Yes, I have another specific example, if you don't mind. And really, if you could throw some light or just a beacon of light for people who have that, because it seems to be such a common issue. Let's say parents are divorced and they have more than one child. And the children, they tend to take sides. So let's say a specific example, one woman who is divorced and she had great relationship with both children, they have two. All of a sudden, she doesn't want to talk to the mom anymore, and she's in her 20s. Oh. She's in her 20s and they had great relationship all the way through before the divorce, and now she took the dad's side. And that's, of course, when we're not going to go into why the parents are not supposed to talk bad about each other in front of the people, in front of their children, but it's like, what would be your advice to the mom? Because it feels to me that the mom, being the adult, has to take the first step to communicate with the daughter, because they lost connection at all. And it comes from the daughter, who is not willing to extend the hand and say, Mom, I want to, you're still my mom. So what would you say in a situation like that?
The first thing is, my belief system is that we always need our parents. And to sever a relationship, unless it's terribly abusive, is never the way to go. So the daughter is losing. By choosing sides, the daughter's losing the parent. You're right. It's going to have to be the parent, because the daughter's not speaking to the mother. It's interesting. It's interesting. I had a man who, it was the opposite. His children wouldn't speak to him after the divorce. And he said, I don't know what to do. They won't answer the phone. I said, you know what? Get a whole bunch of cards. This, even though we don't tend to do this, get a whole bunch of cards. And every week you send that child a card saying, you're in my thoughts. I know you don't want to speak to me, but I want you to know I do think of you and love you and hope one day you will be speaking to me. And then the next week they might send a card. I saw this beautiful flower and I thought of you, and I thought of when you were young and how much you meant to me. And I'm so sad that we don't have a relationship. I just want you to know I'm thinking of you. And do this for 52 weeks.
Wow. For the whole year.
Yeah. And what crazy thing happened? I think it took about 20 weeks of these cards. And the child reached out. Now,
With no attachment. So you probably said, like, don't expect anything back.
I said, this is so you know that even if the child never wants to speak to you again, you know that for 52 weeks, you let that child know that even without any feedback, that you love them and that if they ever want to speak to you, you're there. Now, you don't say the same thing every time. You might just tell a little funny thing that happened to you, or you might remember something they did when they were riding their first bike. It doesn't matter. So after it was quite some time, he lucked out and the child did. And then we had to first communicate. And one of the things I told him is you never want to put your spouse down because it's not going to work. You don't want to start a war. You basically say it must be really hard to feel caught between two parents that you love. And it looks to me like you feel like I've done something really terrible and you're mad at me for it. And you have every right to be, but I still want a relationship with you.
What a beautiful way to reach out. Yeah. So writing cards, any other suggestions?
Of course, on the birthday, you'd send a card with a gift. If it comes back, there's nothing you could do but keep sending the cards anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
After 52 weeks, if you don't want to do it anymore, that's fine. The last three weeks of sending, you say, look, I feel like I must be bothering you because I don't hear back. If you ever will want to at least open the doorway, I'm here. And then once a year on the birthday, you send a birthday card. And then that's as much as you can do. But once the door gets open, you have to have the skills of communication, because otherwise one person's speaking French and the other one's speaking English, and it's not going to translate. Yeah. Even if it was French and Italian, they might be, or Spanish and Italian, they might be able to communicate. But French and English, there's no commonality. So we think we're speaking the same language because we're all speaking the language we were brought up in, but there's a whole different language of communication that, so the biggest answer is I have seen relationships heal between a grandmother and her adult daughter who already has teenage kids.
Yeah.
And I've seen them heal. No, it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It takes time. And that's why you need the mediator. You need somebody to kind of help you, even no matter how much you've learned about active listening. When you get all riled up inside, it's very hard to stay cool and say, wait, what is that person saying underneath the words?
Wow, beautiful. So yeah, if I can repeat, there's so much great information and great practical tips that you guys can learn from today's conversation with Audrey. So number one, if you have an issue and you don't have the great rapport and great connection, first step is to recognize it's happening. Number two, Audrey suggests that it's coming from the child, so it's kind of the want to have that connection established, and the child would be better, although it could be from the parent side too.
Either side, according to where the wounds are. Yeah.
Yes. So someone has to open the door, but not with the expectation of, hey, I opened the door. The other one has to appreciate that and listen to me right away. No, you just open the door and be gracious inside and just stay with that, and then the active listening comes into play, which was discussed in the previous episode. So you can learn about that from the previous episodes with Audrey. So, and then the next step, you said, if it's the divorce situation, then you can send the card. It happens, alive one day for 30 minutes from the life of a busy entrepreneur and a professional in demand, right? It always happens to us. And so sending cards, I love it. And you know what? I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you don't even have to have a broken relationship to send those cards out. You can, even if you have a great relationship, you can still do 52 weeks of sending cards the old way to the children in the
Once
family.
a
How
month.
cool
If
is
you
that?
have a good relationship, once a month is more than enough. Yes.
More
Yes.
than enough, or if you want to do, I mean, it never hurts to send as many as you want, right? So it's just beautiful. And and it feels like at some point they're going to respond with that persistency and persistence and consistency. Yeah. So
Hopefully they will. Or then there's other skills that can be used if they do not respond. There's definitely other things that could be done. I did want to add one more point. Sometimes when there's so many wounds, so much hurt that people like, I'm not going to ever, unless they apologize. If you're in that mode, first we have to clean out the underlying anger for yourself, because in an angry mode, you're not going to be able to talk the language of love and understanding.
yeah. And you know, the biggest lesson that I hear from you and that you're spreading is it always starts with us. It's never the other person. Look at yourself first and see what you can start with the I statements, basically. What is happening? Or I just love the way you phrased it in the previous episode when you said, I'm curious what's happening, what's going on. And it could be, then you can find out if it's something with you or is it something with the other person other than you, which in this case gonna be your child. Is it correct?
Yeah, and I love it that you brought that up, because a person, let's say, in front of people, let's say the mother says something to the adult child, and it's kind of like nasty. And could you imagine how different that whole tension in the room would be as if the adult child said, "Yeah, I'm really curious what's going on that you said that," instead of, "Oh my God, I can't," like letting the tension just hang there.
Yeah.
And also it forces the other person to go, "Why did I just do that?"
Yeah, yeah. So it's really important learning the language that gets the point across and yet not offensive, not rude, not diminishes the power of the other, whether that's your child or not. Somebody is really trying to reach you.
Well, I have like 5 people, they're waiting for me to be done today, and I have a blog talk radio today, so that's.
Of course, you're a busy woman.
No,
Of course.
I'm so sorry I didn't shut the phone off.
We are wrapping up. And so can you please tell us, there's so much more to learn. So please tell us how to connect with you and about the gift that you have for everybody.
Sure. So to connect with me, you can go to anxietycontrol@gmail.com.
It's Anxiety Control Center.
No, for the email, you can do either anxietycontrolcenter@gmail.com, or for the email, you could do anxietycontrol@gmail.com. You're right. For the website, it's thank you for making sure, anxietycontrolcenter.com.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go on there, I've also put up all the YouTube videos that we've done together, Zhanna. So they're all on the Anxiety Control Center website as well. And if you go to the website, on the right-hand corner, you'll see a little thing in the right-hand side, and it says, for your first calming the mind and body video, you just put an email in and you get a 7-minute video for calming your mind and body. And you'll see me doing that. And so that's the free gift. There's also a lot of free stuff on anxietycontrolcenter.com. Lots of good articles.
Thank you so much. I know, Audrey, I mean, you are a treasure chest of all these techniques and tools that we can use to not only become better understanding parents, but also individuals on a soul level. And you can clean up all this and stuff that's been stuffed in your body, and you do it through hypnosis and NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, and all these other techniques. Just an amazing resource. So reach out if you like this video, if you find it valuable, or if you have any comments or questions, please comment below the video on our Hummingbird Academy Today page on Facebook or in the group, or you can do it below the video on YouTube. If you just go to Zhanna Shpits and find the episodes with Audrey, please reach out, or you go to Audrey's website directly, anxietycontrolcenter.com, and reach out to her if you have any questions, any suggestions, anything, any comments about what you've learned from 4 episodes with Audrey. And we're wishing you a blessed day, and really but continue mastering the art of connecting, because it's an art, and we're always learning all our life, and there's more to learn, always, always, always. So Audrey, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you for having me. You're such a great interviewer. You make it so pleasant to have this little chat, and I really do like it when people contact me. So with questions, I'll get 5 or 6 similar questions, and I'll write an article, or I'll create an MP3 that I send to people who ask me questions. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. So you guys are watching Dream Big with Zhanna, inspiring you to reignite, refire, and refuel your life. And today's guest was Audrey Sussman. Thank you.
Bye now.
See you next time. Bye.